First at 9 this Wednesday, the 19th of February 2025. Hidden agenda. Opposition lawmakers claim new government's maiden budget is a capitalist agenda masked by leftist principles. The path to progress. Economic growth and expansion must go hand in hand, says President Anura Dissanayaka. Vigilante justice. Notorious drug kingpin Ganemulla Sanjeeva shot dead during a trial at the Halfstope Court Complex. Government vows strict legal action to uphold national security. Reimbursements. 162 million rupees deposited by candidates for the postponed 2023 LG polls to be refunded this month, announces the Election Commission.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lanka Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I am Thanindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story tonight, the notorious drug trafficker and underworld leader known by alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva was gunned down during a trial at the Halfstope Court Complex this morning. Police revealed that an assailant who entered the court premises in the guise of an attorney had carried out the attack. Subsequently, the suspected gunman was arrested by the police special task force this evening in Puttalam. At around 9 a.m. this morning, the notorious drug trafficker and underworld leader Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatna, alias Ganemulla Sanjeeva, was escorted to the Halfstope Court Complex by prison officials. The suspect, who had been under remand custody at the Busa prison, was directed to the No. 5 Magistrates Court inside the Halfstope Court Complex amid heightened security. However, during the trial, a person disguised as an attorney opened fire at the drug trafficker who was standing at the dock of the courtroom. Subsequently, Ganemulla Sanjeeva was rushed to the Colombo National Hospital, and hospital sources revealed that he succumbed to his injuries. Meanwhile, police said that amidst the tense situation, the suspected shooter had managed to flee the scene following this shooting. However, the police have discovered the revolver that was used in the shooting beside the dock. CCTV footage showing the suspect entering the court premises disguised as an attorney is currently circulating on social media platforms. In the meantime, police also revealed that they have identified a woman who is suspected to have aided and abetted in the shooting. According to police, the suspected woman, who was also in the guise of an attorney, had smuggled the gun used for the assassination into the court complex by concealing it inside a book with the pages hollowed out in the shape of a gun. Speaking at a media briefing, police media spokesperson SSP Buddhika Manatunga said that the security within the court premises was heightened and a search operation was launched within the premises. In the meantime, Deputy Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Sunil Watagala and Acting Inspector General of Police Senior DRG Priyantha Veerasurya arrived at the court complex this afternoon.
අදාළ පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතු සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
ඇතුළේදී මෙහෙම මිනිස්සු මරනකොට කොහොමද මහ ජනතාවගේ ආරක්ෂාව තහවුරු කරන්නේ?
ඒකට අදාළ පියවරක් අරගෙන තියෙනවා.
ඒකදී දෙන්නෙක්ව මරලා තියෙනවා තාත්තවයි දුවවයි. එතකොට කොහොමද ආණ්ඩුවක් විදියට මෙහෙම මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව තහවුරු කරන්නේ?
ඇමතුමා මොන හරි පියවර අරන් තියෙනවද මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්? ඔව් දැන් ඊට අදාළ සියලුම පුද්ගලයන් හඳුනගෙන තියෙනවා. ඊට අදාළ සියලු පියවර අරන් තියෙනවා. ඒකයි මේ බලන්න.
Minister of Justice and National Integration Harshana Nanayakara also arrived at the court shortly afterward.
This is a serious issue. As a government, we understand this concern. The victim was escorted to the court complex amid heightened security. However, measures should be taken to further increase the security within the court. This decision should be taken following discussions with the relevant authorities. In addition to criminals, there are also innocent people in here. We have to ensure their safety as well. We definitely can. There's no doubt about that. There were murders, other corrupt activities during previous regime as well. However, addressing these issues is our responsibility. We will implement all required measures to address these issues.
Meanwhile, the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today ordered the court's registrar to provide the police with all CCTV footage required to facilitate the investigation into the killing of Ganemulla Sanjeeva. Submitting the relevant information before Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali, the Keselwata police informed that the investigations into the matter commenced immediately after the shooting. In a later development, the main suspect involved in the killing of Ganemulla Sanjeeva was arrested in the Palavi area in Puttalam by the police special task force. The suspect was arrested while attempting to flee the police in a van. In other similar updates, a 39-year-old man and his 6-year-old daughter were killed following a shooting in Middenia. According to police, two unidentified gunmen who arrived on a motorcycle opened fire on the 39-year-old who was also travelling on a motorcycle with his son and daughter last night. Police confirmed that the 39-year-old was killed instantly while his son and daughter were admitted to the Ambalipitia and Tangol hospitals respectively with critical injuries. However, the victim's 6-year-old daughter succumbed to injuries shortly after being admitted to hospital. Police said that a T-56 type assault rifle had been used for the shooting and investigations are ongoing to apprehend the suspects. Meanwhile, the murders at the Halfstorp Court Complex and Middenia took centre stage during today's parliamentary proceedings, with opposition MPs urging government to take strict measures to ensure national security.
A
shooting has occurred at court number 5 of the Halfstorp Court Complex. The shooter entered the court disguised as a lawyer. This is not a joke. He has killed an underworld figure named Ganemulla Sanjeeva. Sanjeeva was providing testimony in a different case. However, today he was summoned to appear in court. The shooter, pretending to be a lawyer, was able to bypass security. This incident highlights the growing threats faced by lawyers. Over 78 murders have taken place recently. If we do not take this matter seriously, I do not know where it will end.
If a person has to enter court premises with the fear of losing their life, that is a major issue. Therefore, I urge the Chief Government Whip to take the necessary steps to ensure law and order. We are also ready to provide our fullest support in this regard.
The government is seriously addressing underworld activities and has already taken several actions. I thank the opposition leader for his explanation. This is precisely why the Minister of Defence recently announced the return of state-issued firearms. Some of these firearms have already been surrendered. You may have also seen that we have taken steps to bring back criminals hiding in Dubai and India to face legal action. There are many such measures being implemented. While we cannot disclose all details to Parliament, rest assured that the government is actively intervening in this matter. We will not lose our grip on these criminal networks and we will take strict legal action.
Yesterday, I saw a cabinet minister claim that this government has allocated the lowest budget for national security. Now anyone can operate freely. Today alone, there have been 2 murders, one last night in Middenia and another inside a court complex in front of a judge. If the government does not focus on these fundamental security concerns, you will never be able to attract foreign direct investment without ensuring national security.
People who have a history of killing as a tradition are now pointing fingers at the current 90-day government, accusing it of rising crime rates. Where is national security? It was Ranil Wickremesinghe who removed security checks at the entrance of the Magistrates Court in 2023. We deeply regret this incident. However, these suspects have reportedly been arrested in Puttalam, demonstrating swift action on our part. We must also investigate the murder in Middenia. I have seen individuals who once accepted contracts from the Rajapaksa family giving media interviews. It seems they are no longer affiliated with the Rajapaksas. A separate investigation is necessary to uncover the truth behind this. Killing witnesses have now become a trend. I assure the public that we will conduct thorough investigations and those responsible will face justice. Meanwhile, as the budget debate continued for the second day in Parliament today, opposition legislator Kabir Hashim claimed that the maiden budget of the new government is a capitalist budget disguised as one based on leftist principles. Meanwhile, when questioned about the effectiveness of the Aswasuma program in eradicating poverty, Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayanta stated that providing financial aid to eliminate poverty has not been effective in Sri Lanka. With the recent blackout and the facts presented by your ministry, will you stop adding solar power to the national grid or will its expansion be limited?
We have no intention of limiting, reducing or stopping solar energy. I saw news reports claiming we have appointed a committee to halt its expansion, but that is false. We fully understand the importance of solar energy and are working to make its integration into the grid more systematic than before.
As a country whose leaders have acknowledged their role in jeopardizing the economy, does the government recognize the need to base its future decisions on the latest poverty data? If so, what indicators and resources were used in preparing this budget? When does the government plan to present a new census of population and housing? Does the government acknowledge the Aswasuma initiative introduced by the previous administration as a viable program for poverty eradication?
When making decisions, poverty indices are critically important. In formulating the budget, we considered that the monthly and quarterly poverty line indicators, the 2019 Household Income Survey, the 2019 Multidimensional Poverty Index, and the 2023 report on the impact of the economic crisis on households. Sri Lanka conducts a census of population and housing every 10 years. We do not believe that merely providing financial grants will eliminate poverty. Additionally, we have observed that past grant programs have not eradicated poverty, but have instead increased the number of families in poverty.
When President Anura Dissanayake and the JVP presented their first budget, it felt like the third budget of Ranil Wickremesinghe. However, there was no objection from the 156 NPP MPs. Suddenly, privatization has become acceptable, which is a surprising change. The very policies you once criticized, the ones deemed harmful to the economy and a threat to national security and sovereignty, were endorsed through this budget. For socialists and Marxists, the ideological foundation is Das Kapital, while for capitalists, it is the Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. This budget by President Anura Dissanayake is the Wealth of Nations hidden within the cover of Das Kapital. During the budget speech, the President referred to the burning of the Jaffna Library and implicated a certain party. Our mother party was accused and Ranil Wickremesinghe even apologized to this House on its behalf. But I ask, when President Anura Dissanayake made that statement, did he not recall that the JVP was responsible for the bombing of the Temple of the Tooth relic? Have they ever apologized for that?
He has asked that we have never apologized for bombing the Dalada Malikawa, and now on behalf of the Northern Province people, if that is made by the LTT and if they are representing us, we sincerely apologize for the wrongdoing of Dalada Malikawa bombing if that they have done it.
That is why I asked the JVP also to apologize, because they also bombed the Dalada Malikawa. So they haven't apologized yet.
The main criticism from the opposition is that this budget is essentially a Ranil Wickremesinghe or IMF driven budget and that it lacks leftist principles. If that is the case, you should be pleased. If achieving this was the goal of your alliances over the past 40 years, how can you now object? You are not the ones confused. You are simply trying to confuse the people.
In this budget, all expenditures have been presented, but there is no clear explanation for your revenue models. When questioned about this, most ministers respond by saying wait 5 years and we will show you. The Prime Minister once walked from Galle to Colombo demanding that 6% of the budget be allocated for education. Yet today, only 1.9% has been allocated.
Union Assurance. චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි deal.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
Malibu chocolate cream, inguru and lemon puff. Less sugar, same great taste. From Malibu.
President Anura Dissanayake says Budget 2025 is the first step in Sri Lanka's journey to strengthen its economy in preparation for the resumption of debt servicing in 2028. Addressing a post-budget forum, the head of state said the new government's maiden budget gives equal attention to economic growth and expansion. The Post-Budget Forum 2025, organised by the University of Colombo Master of Business Administration Alumni Association, was held today in Colombo with the participation of President Anuradha Dissanayake. This budget was not presented at a time when we possess a strong economy. In addition to our own goals, we had to fulfill certain conditions through the budget. For example, revenue should be 15.1% of GDP, expenditure limit 13% of GDP, and primary account surplus 2.3% of GDP. We also have to impose a borrowing limit. Our finances are not sufficient to fulfill all of our goals. Therefore, we must allocate funds based on priority. We must resume debt servicing by 2028. The goal of this budget is to utilize the next 3 years to build our capacity to repay debts by 2028. We focused on both economic growth and expansion. Previously, attempts were made to establish domestic economic units which were unsuccessful. This model is suitable for a subsistence economy. However, what we currently have is a market economy. Therefore, we must create rural economic units and their benefits must be passed down to the domestic level to alleviate rural poverty. Education is the sector that received the highest allocation through this year's budget. When it comes to managing government expenditure, the public service is not a burden, but the expense incurred for it is too high. A committee has been appointed under the chairmanship of the Secretary to the Prime Minister to review public service entities. We are in discussions regarding free trade agreements with a view to growing export revenue. Our ports have tremendous potential due to Sri Lanka's location. Colombo is among the world's top 24 or 25 ports when it comes to container transshipment volume. None of India's ports have a similar capacity. We are looking to swiftly complete the East Terminal of the Port of Colombo. The West Terminal will be completed in March. The North Terminal also has potential and we will invite investments for it quickly. We expect over 2.5 million tourist arrivals this year. However, only a handful of destinations have been identified as tourist zones. Anuradhapura, Yapahua and Jaffna can become new tourist destinations. We will implement city branding initiatives for that purpose. It was reported that Sri Lanka had the highest cost of electricity in the region. Currently, it costs around 13 US cents to generate a unit of electricity. We intend to reduce it to 8 cents. For that, the cost of electricity generated through renewable sources should come down to 5 or 6 cents. At Sri Lanka's first wind farm in Mannar, the cost of a unit is 4.65 cents. We intend to break ground for the solar power project in Sampur by April. That will add 120 megawatts to the grid. With solar farms spanning 10,000 acres, we can generate 3.2 gigawatts, which is sufficient until 2040. We are in government-to-government discussions with the UAE to potentially purchase oil. It is with this vision that the budget was compiled to achieve our economic goals.
Government to government. එහෙම agreement එකකට තෙල් ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා අපි දැක්මත් එක තමයි ආර්ථික ජයග්‍රහණ ඉලක්ක කර ගැනීම සඳහා ණය වේලයක සකස් කරලා තිබෙන්නේ.
The Election Commission announced today that 162 million rupees deposited by over 2,000 political parties and independent groups ahead of the postponed 2023 local government elections will be refunded this month. Meanwhile, members of the ruling party, the National People's Power, met with officials of the Election Commission today to discuss matters concerning the upcoming local government elections. A delegation headed by the Secretary of the National People's Power, Dr. Nihal Abesinghe, arrived at the Election Commission this morning to discuss the preparations for the upcoming local government elections.
The Election Commission was attentive to the proposals we made. We believe that they will take a fair decision.
There are certain political parties which have been rejected by the general public. They are trying to come up with various reasons to postpone this election. This election will be their next defeat. Since they are afraid to lose once again, they are attempting to run away from these elections.
This is the bill which was passed in Parliament during the recent past with a supermajority. This bill was passed with the consensus of all political parties. This time the elections will definitely be held and we have funds.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna convened a meeting to discuss matters concerning the local government polls last afternoon under the patronage of the party's national organiser, MP Namal Rajapaksa.
There are no conspiracies within our party because we have no internal deals. We are honest with the public. We will do what we are capable of without providing any fake promises. Unlike the incumbent government, we will seek power by not deceiving the public. To that end, we will prepare to face the upcoming elections.
In the meantime, the Election Commission announced that the deposits made by the recognised political parties and independent groups for the postponed local government elections scheduled to be held in 2023 will be refunded.
We will refund 162 million rupees deposited by 2,858 political parties and independent groups ahead of the 2023 local government polls. The nominees can receive their deposits by submitting their deposit receipts to their relevant district election office. They have been instructed to hand over their deposit receipts along with a written request before the end of this month. The nominees will receive their checks within 2 to 3 days.
Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka Isumata Akio urges Sri Lanka to take full advantage of Japan's Expo 2025 Osaka Kansai, scheduled to commence in April. Speaking at a reception held in celebration of the Japanese Emperor's birthday, Ambassador Akio emphasized that the Expo will be an opportunity for Sri Lanka to attract both tourists and investors. Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka Isumata Akio hosted a reception at his official residence in Colombo last evening to celebrate the 65th birthday of the Emperor of Japan. Sri Lanka's Minister of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment, Dr. Upali Pannilage, was the chief guest of the reception.
The resumption of yen loan projects, including the Bandaranaike International Airport development, will be key in strengthening Sri Lankan tourism sector and economic revitalization. In February 2025, Japan provided a grant of 300 million Japanese yen to support the Clean Sri Lanka initiative, which will contribute in enhancing waste management and environmental sustainability. We also acknowledge Japan's timely humanitarian assistance during the recent floods in Sri Lanka. Japan's steadfast role as the co-chair of the official credit committee was instrumental in ensuring the success of Sri Lanka's debt restructuring process. We recognize with gratitude Japan's efforts in strengthening Sri Lanka's institutions dedicated to combating bribery and corruption.
This year, Japan is hosting 2025 Expo Osaka Kansai. With its opening in less than 2 months from now, Expo 2025 is an ideal opportunity for Sri Lanka to promote to the world not only its natural and cultural features to attract tourists, but also its ongoing efforts for economic recovery to attract investors. Japan sincerely hopes that the government of Sri Lanka will make the best use of this opportunity. We are seeing an increasing number of young Sri Lankans going to Japan for study and work. We can also tap this pool of rich human resources with innovative ideas and solutions in order for Sri Lanka to turn a variety of its potential into reality and let it flourish for the benefit of both Sri Lanka and the world. Japan is ready to continue to work together with Sri Lanka in this.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Diabetesol සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Malibu chocolate cream, inguru and lemon puff. Less sugar, same great taste. From Malibu.
Welcome back. Attorney at Law Rajiv Amarasuriya has been elected as the new president of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Amarasuriya previously served as the secretary of BASL. He holds multiple prominent positions across state and private sector institutions, including serving as a board and committee member of the Sri Lanka Accounting and Auditing Standards Monitoring Board, the Standing Committee of Legal Studies of the University Grants Commission, and as a council member of the University of Colombo. He also represents Sri Lanka in the Commonwealth Legal Education Association. Notably, in January 2024, he was appointed to the governing board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Maldives Abdullah Khalil engaged in bilateral discussions today at the Foreign Ministry premises in Colombo. Discussions were aimed at strengthening bilateral and diplomatic relations between the two nations, and using local currencies for cross-border transactions was also discussed. A joint press conference was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today with the participation of Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Maldives Abdullah Khalil. The press conference followed bilateral discussions between the two foreign ministers.
A while ago, Minister Khalil and I have had the opportunity to hold detailed bilateral discussions. I invited investments from Maldives to diverse sectors. We discussed extensively on deepening cooperation in the aviation sector. On employment sector cooperation, I appreciated Maldives' commitment in providing employment opportunities for Sri Lankans. I also requested the Maldives side to consider the possibility of using the Maldivian rupiah and Sri Lankan rupee for cross-border transactions by the Sri Lankan workforce for the benefit of our migrant workers in Maldives. We agreed to build partnership through investments in the tourism and leisure sector. We shared views on the provision of transit passage for Sri Lankan fishing vessels for smooth access to the Arabian Sea. We discussed regarding strengthening cooperation in the renewable energy. We in the Sri Lanka have played a key role in supporting Maldivian students and professionals, and I expressed commitment to collaborate in this area. And we committed to continue our cooperation with each other.
As we mark the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries, this year we are fully committed to the strengthening and elevating this historic partnership. The government and people of Maldives are grateful to the government and people of Sri Lanka for the immeasurable contributions it has made to the socio-economic development of the Maldives.
Welcome back. In business news, the Colombo Bourse closed in red today as a result of price losses in counters such as Ceylon Tobacco Company, Sampath Bank and National Development Bank. The all-share index dropped 0.70%, ending at 17,074.02 points, while the S&P SL20 also closed 0.83% down at 5,093.90 points. Market turnover crossed 3.6 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Meanwhile, foreign investors closed as net buyers. And up next, we have Minal Vikramage from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy in our next segment, Economic Outlook.
In the domestic financial markets, the weekly average weighted prime lending rate, or the WPR, for the week ending February 14th decreased by 17 basis points to 8.42% compared to the previous week. Meanwhile, the WCMR declined slightly to 7.99%, down from 8% at the end of the last week. Market liquidity saw a significant increase, with the total outstanding surplus rising by 175.08 billion LKR by February 14th, compared to 144.294 billion LKR in the previous week. In the government securities market, treasury bill rates recorded a slight reduction in both the primary and secondary market, while treasury bond yields remained broadly stable. However, the total volume of secondary market transactions in treasury bills and treasury bonds declined by 14.1% compared to the previous week.
And that's all for tonight on First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.